got it.
I always want to lean on the counter.
It's okay to lean on the counter.
Good evening.
Hello, hello. I think we are live in both places.
I think we have a good connection.
Yes. So far, so good. We'll see if anybody jumps on here, and then we'll know. So as you hop on, make sure that you say hello and wave so that we know that you're here.
Or you can say bonjour.
That's right. You can jump into our world this week and say bonjour. So anyway, there's Matthew and Kendall, Teresa, howdy howdy. Hey Adrian. Oh, there we go. There's somebody on Instagram. Hello, Dawn Fountain. Oh, hi Maya. So, bonjour. Yes. Bonjour, hello. That's how it usually goes in our neck of the woods this week. Or, I don't know, some places it's just bonjour. And then we say, hey. So.
The lady at the grocery store last night was not having me.
Hello, Marcy.
Because I didn't speak French. She just said bonjour, so I said bonjour. And then
Yeah,
she started rattling it off, and I was like, okay, I have learned my lesson. I will not say bonjour anymore.
Yeah, that's the problem, is because you want to, like, respond bonjour to be nice, like you're trying to be a part of, you know, when in Rome, do as the Romans. But then if you do that,
they think you speak
French.
Think
you speak French. And so then they start talking to you. Is that rain? I keep feeling like I'm hearing it rain.
No, it's the shower. Caroline's in the shower.
Oh, maybe it is the shower. Okay, anyway, so for those of you who are just figuring out, we are only here because I heard Adrian. I don't know what Aaron said. I couldn't. He said, I'm only here because I heard Adrian get a shout out, and I need one too. Hey, Aaron. What about Haddon? Is Haddon watching? Hey, buddy.
Time to go night-night.
That's right. It's probably, he may already be in the bed. So yeah, so, okay, what we're trying to get to is that we have arrived in Montreal. That's where we were going with all of this.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
So yes, we've arrived in Montreal though, so we're in the land of everything is French. Cooking supper. What are you cooking for us, Stevie? So it's interesting because you get into this part of Haddon and Ezra. Hey buddy, you give Ezra a big kiss from me. If you get into, so we get to this part of Canada.
Ezra is a child, for those of you who don't know.
Yeah. You get into this part of Canada, though, and everything is French. So we're in Quebec now, so that makes our 4th Canadian province, for those of you counting. And so everything is French. Literally, like, all the signage went French. The road signs, the
menus,
to the point that I downloaded Google Translate last night, and Google Translate is amazing. Did you know that you can hover over? The girls taught me this today. So we get to a place to eat brunch today after church, and Google Translate, if you go through the Google Lens, you can hover over the menu, and right on your phone it turns it to English.
It translates it.
I know.
Just what Google's supposed to do.
It's amazing though. So anyway.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah. We need to backtrack, though, because we had a crazy busy week. Hi, Jeff and Jenny. And so we need to backtrack and talk about Toronto before we get too far into Montreal.
Yes.
And we made no notes, so this is going to be all off the cuff of our memory.
I was just thinking, goodness.
Oh, turkey burgers and hash browns. Sounds good.
Healthy.
When you get right over, we'll be ready to grab our burgers.
So yeah, last Sunday we came to you. We were in Toronto. We had been to church at Fellowship Church.
Fellowship Pickering.
Yep. And we
had
Hi,
Lisa. Sorry, I'm telling everybody hey tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
I noticed.
Keep going. Fellowship Pickering.
Hey. And Monday night we had the chance to take the pastor and his wife out to dinner. They had childcare for the night. They have family in the area, and they said we would get no conversation done if they had their little 2-year-old boy with them. So we said, well, we'll leave our kids at home too then. And we asked, what's one of your favorite places to go? And they gave us a couple options. One was a recommendation that the St. Louis Sin City missionary had given me. St. Louis Sin City missionary used to be in Toronto for 10 years. He actually planted and started a network of churches there in Toronto, and
he had given you a whole list of things.
There was a place called Makimono, and something that's big in Toronto. I've never seen it big anywhere else, but all you can eat sushi. And so that was a new experience for us. It was a little bit stressful, if I'm being honest, trying to order.
They had one iPad that you ordered from for the whole table. We'd never been there before. But anyway,
luckily they had been, and they ordered a bunch of stuff.
They just started ordering
and it was
stuff,
really
and we
good.
said go for it.
Yeah.
So, but one of the interesting things was that the way, like, robots delivered the food. So if you saw my stories this week, I think I threw that up on stories this week. So it was an interesting experience all the way around. We were super excited to get to meet.
I'm going to make an adjustment.
Okay. What are you adjusting? We were, it was fun to get to meet the McKays and to hear kind of their story. They both grew up in the area, how they met, and then how they got involved with the church. And then they're expecting baby number 2 in at the beginning of the year. And so January, December, it doesn't matter. Anyway, and so yeah, we got to hang out with them and have fun. And then on Tuesday was that next couple that
it was the day after Monday.
It was. But on Tuesday, I feel like you had something else that day.
Yes, I did.
He's going to get his notebook because it's all going to run together. An Afghan restaurant outside of Toronto. Lots of good stuff, but I noticed I have no idea how to pronounce any of it. I don't even know what Afghan food is. Does anybody know what Afghan food is? It's interesting in Canada because there is a plethora of food. Like just today on one street, I saw Haitian food, German food, Indian food, a noodle place, you name it. So just all kinds of different things. So it's very interesting how I knew it was from Afghanistan. Thank you. I just didn't know what kind of food it was.
Stating the obvious for us. I thought they just gave you a really neat crocheted blanket to put on your lap while you ate. That's what I thought of when I heard Afghan. That's what we called a blanket. A crocheted blanket growing up.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, we are digressing majorly.
We are. So,
so back to Monday night, we had dinner. Tuesday.
Monday, actually, I got to go to lunch with the Sin City missionary from
that's right. You did do that.
Toronto as well. And that was very interesting. Great to hear just the information that he had to share about their area, about the team, about the way that the local association and the Canadian Baptist Convention and IMB and NAMB, how they all collaborate and work together. Yeah. It's just pretty special how they have got that working, and it seems to be doing really well for them. They're raising up a lot of local church planters. So that was awesome to get to hear about that. And then Tuesday night we went to dinner.
Yes.
Another all-you-can-eat place.
No, another all-you-can-eat Asian buffet.
This
I forget what it was. Oh, it was called Walk of Fame.
Walk of Fame. W-O-K.
Yeah.
Play on words there.
Yeah.
So anyway, we went there. This was a sweet older couple. He is actually pastoring 2 churches. One is an established church that he's kind of taken over because the pastor left. The other is a church plant that he has started. And they're probably in their 60s.
Yeah, they had grandchildren, that were in middle school. So.
Yeah. And Filipino couple, they're moved from the Philippines shortly after I was born. So they've been here.
70s, yeah.
They've been here a little while. And just really neat to get to talk with them.
They were the sweetest little couple. They had all grandsons. And so we had actually, because it turned out, one of the things we learned about Toronto was that it's
a big place.
Nothing is close together. Like
it's really spread out.
It's very spread out. And so we were staying quite a bit north of the city just because that's all we could find. So like to meet them for dinner, it was an hour and a half one way and then an hour and a half back. And so we left early enough that the girls just stayed here to finish school and fix themselves some dinner and get showered. And so it was so sweet. We got there though, and they have all grandsons. And she said, "Oh, where are the girls?" She was so disappointed that she didn't get to meet the girls. But it was sweet. Towards the end of our conversation, she asked me something about how to be a pastor's wife, and I looked at her and I said, you need to be telling me, giving me wisdom. I said, you've done it much longer than I have. And so it was just a really sweet time of fellowship. They were the cutest little couple. So
yeah, that was Tuesday night. Wednesday we had free. We didn't have anything on the schedule on Wednesday, and then on Thursday I had breakfast with a pastor. It's a single guy. He's a Chinese pastor. He grew up. What he said, he grew up in a pagan home, and as he grew up, he became atheist, and just really sensed that there was something more out there. So he went on a pursuit intellectually to find out kind of what the meaning of life was. And he moved to Africa and worked for a while, and just slowly over time, his first encounter was with a university student in China that was, he said, undercover. So it was someone from the States that was going to school over there, and he met him and was exposed to the gospel for the first time. And he said he didn't receive it immediately, but that was always in the back of his mind as he went to Africa, as he came to Canada. That was always there. And as he started going through his studies, oddly enough, he was always interested in church, but never accepted Christ as his personal Savior, and went along and was attending church and asked his pastor, he said, I want to go to school. And his pastor recommended that he go to a seminary. So he ended up going to seminary, and through his studies came to faith in Christ. So really interesting how God got a hold of his heart, and how he came to know Christ. But he is doing a lot of work with international students. He's a professor, and he teaches full-time, but then he pastors on the side, if you can do that on the side. Both full-time jobs that he has, but really neat guy. Great to spend some time with him.
And then Thursday ended up, you had a dinner, but Thursday ended up looking a little different than we thought. It's interesting how, oftentimes we can see well, and you've all heard us, those of you who tune in every week have heard us talk about the Lord's timing, and how we can see that he puts us in places just at the right time. So on Wednesday night, we got a call. So Kevin's cousin that we've spent some time with recently and that we like to visit when we come up this direction, she ended up having to have emergency surgery to have her gallbladder removed on Thursday morning. And so I left with Kevin that morning. We rented a car. I came back and got school finished. I left about lunch and headed back over the border into the United States to go and spend the night with her, with the hopes of getting her settled at home. I ended up not being able to do that, but was able to be at the hospital with her for a while. And so I stayed Thursday night, and then Kevin had dinner on Thursday night.
Yeah, I had a dinner with a pastor. I thought it was going to be the pastor. Ended up getting to have dinner with he and his wife and his daughter. So it was Virgil and Cassie De Jesus. Where did my mind go when I heard the last name De Jesus? I was thinking Hispanic pastor. Come to find out, they were from the Philippines also, which was interesting to find out. He had been here about 7 years. She had been here about 13 years. And so they were from the same village, city in the Philippines, but they were here now. They had gotten married. He had come here. And so got to have dinner with them. Really neat couple. Just great to see, how God is working in them personally, in their relationship together, in their relationship with the church. So they both came to Christ through one of her family members, actually. And so it was interesting to hear their story and hear about church planting is difficult. And one of the things that I mentioned is that a lot of church planters are being raised up locally, which is great. That's really the goal. Every church wants to raise up local people to go out and plant churches in their area. But as they've done that, those people they're raising up don't have the same network. Oftentimes if someone comes from the U.S., they come with a network of support behind them. Whereas when they're raising them up here locally, that's more difficult. So that's been a challenge. That's something they're praying about.
It's more difficult because they don't have the relationships with this, but then also because so many of so around here, Kevin mentioned earlier, CNBC, so it's the Canadian National Baptist Convention. So around here, so many of the CNBC churches are 10 years or less. In the last 10 years are when the majority of the CNBC churches. So there just aren't that many that have longstanding churches, Southern Baptist churches that have been around for a long time. So it's hard for them to have this and garner the support from that standpoint, but also with so many of the local pastors being locally equipped and born and raised, the connections back in the States. So I don't know. Sometimes I wonder. It's interesting. It'll be interesting for us as we learn more and more about pastors and people here in Canada. How the Lord can use that information and knowledge that we've gotten to make connections, in the coming months and years.
Yeah, because there's a lot that they're doing here in Canada that needs to be replicated. They're doing a great job, and it's been fun to learn about it. It's been fun to get over here now on Saturday instead of Friday. Casey ended up coming back on Friday, so we ended up moving on Saturday this week. So we got over to Montreal yesterday.
So a little geography for all of us Americans is that, so we now have come, why are you looking at me like that?
I'm interested to see what you're going to tell us.
Well, I've explained twice now where, kind of because we don't often look at Canada. So Toronto is right near the east, is on the east side of New York. The state of New York is a big rectangle. New York City is on the, I said the wrong thing. New York City's on the east side of New York. Niagara Falls is on the west side. So Toronto sits right there on the west side of New York, and so that's their borders. So in order to get to Montreal, we have come north and east, and so we are up above Vermont right now. So
yeah,
I've explained that a couple of times. It just gives you kind of a framework. Ontario, which is the province that Toronto sits in, is I think the largest, I don't know that for a fact, but Ontario is a huge province. And so it encompasses a whole lot. Toronto is just one little kind of corner.
We basically drove all along the north edge of Lake Ontario, if you look at a map.
So anyway, so when we come back into the United States on Saturday of next week, or this next Saturday, we will come in through Vermont.
Yes.
So that gives you just some.
Yeah, so we got here last night, and we headed to church this morning, and we went to Renaissance Church, which was a church that we had a connection with. Kind of somewhat random, but not really. God's never random, right? So the Sin City missionary from here reached out and gave me some names. I reached out to all of those people, and the first person to respond.
All these notifications. Hold on. Okay, there we go.
The first person to respond happened to be a pastor that I didn't know. I knew Casey had been talking to someone from Georgia about a connection they had, and when I told her the first person that responded, she's like, "Oh, that's the guy that Kat was telling me about." And so
so it's super cool. So
we ended up getting to go to church with them. We're going to have dinner with them. We had coffee scheduled, and then Casey got to church and met his wife and was like, "Hey, could our girls take care of your kids and we'll go out to dinner, just the four of us?" And she was excited about that. So.
Yeah, they both were like, yeah. So
we're looking forward to that.
Connect with them on Tuesday, So.
And I just got a coffee scheduled with a guy that's on the west side. So we're on the east side of Montreal. He's over on the west side. He's actually a church that was planted out of the church that we attended this morning. So the church we attended this morning was planted. The planting pastor is no longer there, and this other pastor has taken over. And the church that I'm going to meet with the guy tomorrow, his church was planted out of this church. Their planting pastor is no longer here and has moved on. And so this guy has taken over. So some interesting situations. I'm anxious to hear Cody's story tomorrow at coffee.
Are we speaking French? No. We're using Google Translate.
Uste.
Kevin just likes to say all of the directions.
North.
I feel like every time he starts talking about it and he keeps saying the names, I feel like we've gone back to that scene in Frozen where the, they get to the sauna and the little, they're like, mix some of it all out. And Kevin's like, Nord, East. Anyway.
We know very little French.
Yeah, we don't know. I took 2 years in high school and 2 semesters in college. And so I should recognize, by the end of the week, maybe more of it will be coming back to me.
I have learned what arrête means. That means stop.
Oh, yeah.
That's on these
stop.
Little red signs everywhere, so I've learned that one.
Yeah. So, anyway, not a whole lot of French. We'll see how we are by the end of the week. I suspect it will be a similar answer, but anyway, for those of you, here's another just random RV life thing. For those of you following along with our oven saga, so we have taken it, we haven't updated on that. So we have taken it, we did the week we were in Rochester, we took the entire oven apart.
The entire oven. I mean, like 40 screws. The entire thing had to come apart. The back had to come off. The top had to come off.
We took the entire
front
thing
had
apart.
to come off.
We even stopped what we were doing, drove 30 minutes while we did a phone interview to get a part that ended up not fitting when we got back. And so now that we took it all apart, Kevin was able to kind of see, okay, I think this is...
We just had the wrong size part, so...
We hope.
The little nut that screws in was like one size too big.
So
if it was too small, I could have put thread tape on it and got it in there. But.
We ordered several things off of Amazon that I picked up when I ran back over to New York, and
we hope one of them's going to work,
fingers
or
crossed,
2 or 3 of them combined.
We're going to find a day this week because our week is going to lend itself to that, and so we're going to pump Kevin up to pull the oven out again.
And some of you might be thinking, surely you didn't have to take the whole thing apart, and that's what I thought. Once I got it all apart and I looked at where the part was, I was like, there's got to be another way. But you can see our stove and our oven behind us. So the part that is right here, but it has a wire that runs all the way back and down to the bottom and back in the oven. So I literally do have to take the whole thing apart. And so you see,
I mean, we're this is the space here. It's only big enough for us, and so we have to literally pull it out and twist it.
I couldn't walk for 3 days after we worked on this thing.
Y'all.
Not really.
So anyway, our little stack of parts is sitting over there on the table, and so if you're
next
following
week,
along,
hold me accountable.
You're gonna cross your fingers, and we're gonna pray that we get the oven fixed this week. This week it's happening.
Yes. Yes.
Actually, what we're gonna pray is that the part that we think is bad that we've been working on that actually fixes our problem. Because if we do this all again,
I'm most confident in that part.
Okay. Well, yeah. So there we go. Okay, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. So for just of interest things that, don't forget, we have a monthly newsletter that goes out at the beginning of the month. I always like to remind people of that.
We didn't say anything about the fact that Montreal was our 32nd Sin City.
Montreal is our 32nd Sin City. Yeah. For those of you who have been tracking with us since the beginning. There are 32
if you haven't been tracking with us.
Yeah, so this is our last Sin City. We've done all 32. And so
we're coming back to us. Some we've already gone to. Don't worry, we're not stopping.
Yeah, some of you might remember that we that there was a guy that interviewed us back last fall, and that article was on the Baptist Press and NAMB's website. And so he actually re-interviewed us last week, kind of as a okay, now you've finished up. And so that article, he's hoping that article will hit this week. And so if so, I'll make sure to share it on our social media outlets. But look for that as well. It'll be an interesting kind of recap. So 32 of 32 that we've done. That's 27 in the U.S., 5 in Canada. So
we hit another major milestone. Caitlin has been working hard on YouTube with me, and we finally got to 1,000 subscribers. We were super excited about that.
Yeah, and in the YouTube world, that is the first kind of
one of the big hurdles you have to
hurdle and benchmark that you meet as far as moving forward in the YouTube world. Claire is hobbling by. We think that she broke her toe the other day.
I'll pray for Claire's toe.
So you can pray that her toe just heals like it needs
This little piggy went wee all the way home. It was her little baby toe.
Yes. So anyway, look for, if you're interested in any of our travel videos, you've seen that we've been doing some shifting and doing around on social media as well. So we are trying to kind of get everything categorized a little bit better so that all the ministry stuff stays on Through the Eyes of Our Tribe. All the travel stuff stays on Through the Eyes RV Life. So that's what all that's about. So you can follow along that way. But on our YouTube channel, Kevin's got stuff just about ready to hit about our weekend trip to Niagara Falls. So you can watch for that. Again, if you want to get the newsletter is Ministry Update, and so if you want to get that every month, you can go to our website to join and subscribe there.
Glad you liked the pizza video, Matthew.
Oh, there we go.
We're looking forward to visiting a couple of those places.
I was about to
again.
say, we have 2 of those pizza places we're hitting again in the next couple of weeks. We're so excited. So
not a couple weeks.
Well, not this next week, but the next week and then the next week. So
yeah.
In the next few weeks.
Soon.
So coming up, for those of you wondering what is next, so after Montreal, we head to Boston. We will be in Boston and then New York City. So that's kind of en route from Boston to New York City. We're going to make a little stop through Connecticut for some pizza.
Absolutely.
So anyway,
all right.
I think that's it.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for tuning in. As usual, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments or shoot us a message. We love answering your questions. I like to do that in stories sometimes. And so, yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week from Boston.
Have a good evening.
All right.
Bye.